Class, in this video, I'm going to go over your topic for assignment, Clinical Field Experience B, Mathematical Discourse and Academic Vocabulary. So for this field experience, you should have allocated 3 hours. And we are looking at how teachers are using engaging students in meaningful mathematics discourse and how they are supporting students learning vocabulary. All right, so let's go ahead and look at part one, which is mathematical discourse and academic vocabulary. You should be have been observing your mentor teacher teaching at least 2 mathematics lessons. During the observations, you wanted to take note of those instructional strategies that were being used to develop students' verbal and nonverbal skills. So, what strategies do we see our teachers using that encourage students to be verbally speaking or even nonverbally, thinking about how they are, engaging students in looking at some of their mathematical models and things like that. In addition, you wanted to look at the mathematical discourse or math talk used in the classroom. Math talk can be used in verbal, nonverbal, written, or spoken communication. And you want to observe that classroom environment and notice how the teacher uses the classroom walls, the desk supplies, and those student to student and student to teacher conversations. After you do that part, you're going to want to look at the vocabulary strategies chart. And so you're going to identify 5 key academic vocabulary terms that were used in the lessons that you observed during those field experiences. You're going to describe the strategies that you observed the mentor using to provide academic vocabulary development. Some of those strategies might be embedded with what they're teaching. For example, the teacher might be using correct academic vocabulary and requiring students to use academic vocabulary by repeating what they said and giving them the proper term. And this is embedded in their instruction, and sometimes it looks seamless because they're not explicitly teaching those vocabulary terms. You'll just select 3 instructional strategies that could be used in the classroom lesson to provide opportunities for students to justify and explain mathematical thinking. So these are 3 instructional strategies that you did not observe that could be used to give better opportunities for students to um, justify and explain their mathematical thinking. These opportunities should include interpersonal communication activities such as working in pairs or small groups. It involves some writing using the math vocabulary taught. So really thinking about how we can have students using that academic language. For this assignment, I did create a template for you to use to make sure that you cover the assignment comprehensively. Let me go over the reflection real quick before I show you that template. So for your reflection, you're going to write 250 to 500 words explaining the effective strategies for promoting mathematical discourse, and you're going to cite at least 2 scholarly sources to claim them. So what are some strategies that we can use to promote mathematical discourse? In addition, you're going to describe how you will promote discourse and academic vocabulary development for all your students. So, what are those future actions that you're going to do as a teacher based on these learnings in your field experience and through your scholarly readings? So, let's go ahead and take a look at the template I created for you. So, on the template, you'll find this matches the template, the vocabulary strategies chart that you were given for this assignment, but I also embedded in a little more guidance. You can delete any of that red text before submitting. These are just guidance words that I've given you. So first in part one, you want 250 to 500 words, and you're going to put the vocabulary terms you observed and the definition. If you're watching videos, you can use any of the terms that were used in the lesson, or if you need to, you can use educational terms that were used in the videos. You're going to explain here, you're going to tell me what instructional strategies did you observe that promoted vocabulary development. So include some details below this section on how they were supporting vocabulary development. Then you look at the instructional strategies that were provided to explain and justify mathematical thinking. And you want to include some of those interpersonal activities, such as working in pairs or small groups. So you're going to describe both the vocabulary development and then the mathematical discourse or thinking. And then here you have your reflection. I really like to see strong connections to your future practice. What have you learned and what are you going to do? Not just, I'm going to make sure to cover vocabulary, but tell me explicit action steps that you'll take. I will make sure that I teach vocabulary explicitly, or that I let students work in pairs so that they can have discourse. When I ask questions, I'll have students turn and talk. So be very specific on what you will be doing. Since for this part here, we have that you're going to explain effective strategies and you have to use 2 scholarly sources, make sure that you have your references here in APA style. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rubric for this assignment. So first we have the summary of the field experience. Are you vividly and clearly detailing those instructional strategies that develop both verbal and nonverbal communication skills? And are you providing those opportunities or explaining how the opportunities that students got to justify and explain their mathematical thinking? I know in the virtual classroom, this is much harder. So if you're watching a virtual classroom, you might think about opportunities that were missed if you didn't see a lot of strategies being employed, and you might explain when would have been a good time for students to explain their thinking that possibly the teacher missed. Next, you'll explain how they promoted vocabulary development. And so you're detailing those strategies that promote academic vocabulary development related to the math terms and concepts you put on the chart. This is your reflection. As we talked about before, you're describing those student outcomes. You're thinking about the strategies for promoting mathematical discourse and what you can do as a teacher to employ some of these strategies that you learned. Then we have mechanics, as every assignment does, and then your paper format. Are you using the template correctly? So this is your field experience B, mathematical discourse and academic vocabulary assignment directions. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.